You feel it, don't you? That strange quiet where the chaos used to be. That absence of urgency where the aching used to live. Something inside you has stopped reaching, not because you gave up, not because you stopped caring, but because you arrived somewhere you didn't even know you were traveling toward. You've been waiting for a sign, for clarity, for him to finally see what you've known all along. But what if the sign isn't coming from him? What if it's coming from the way your own heartbeat has changed? You used to wake up wondering if today would be the day. Now you wake up and realize you stopped asking. And that shift, that imperceptible internal shift, is the entire game changer. Divine timing isn't what you thought it was. It's not the universe deciding when he's ready. It's the universe waiting for you to stop waiting. And the moment you do, everything that was suspended in longing begins to move. Not toward you, through you. If you felt this sacred stillness replacing the old urgency, I need you to know this is not the end of your journey. It's the beginning of the real one. Drop a comment below and share where you are right now. Are you still waiting, or have you stepped into your own becoming? Or simply type, "I am ready for divine union," to claim this frequency. And if these transmissions speak to the deepest part of your soul, subscribe so you never miss the guidance that's meant specifically for you. Let's talk about what's really happening in 2026. Because if you're here, if you found this message, you're not stumbling through the twin flame journey anymore. You're standing at the threshold of something most people never reach. You've done the work. You've cried the tears. You've questioned everything. You've been through the dark night, the tower moment, the complete dissolution of who you thought you were. And now, in this year, in this specific window of time, the question is no longer about whether reunion will happen. The question is about who takes the first step. And beloved, that question is not what it seems. For so long, you believed that taking the first step meant reaching out, sending the message, breaking the silence, making yourself vulnerable one more time. You thought the first step was an action directed toward him. But here's the truth that changes everything. The first step in 2026 is not toward him, it's toward yourself. And the moment you take that step fully, completely, without reservation, the entire energetic field shifts. Divine timing doesn't reveal itself through dates on a calendar. It reveals itself through the internal alignment that makes external movement inevitable. And right now, whether you realize it or not, you are being positioned, not to chase, not to wait, but to become the gravitational center that makes reunion possible. Have you noticed how different you feel lately? There's a groundedness in you that wasn't there before, a clarity that doesn't need validation, a peace that doesn't require his presence to exist. This isn't you moving on. This is you moving into the frequency where union actually lives. Because union was never out there in some future moment when he finally wakes up. Union has always been here, waiting for you to stop abandoning yourself to hold space for someone else's timeline. The divine feminine journey in 2026 is not about patience anymore. It's about presence. And presence doesn't wait. It doesn't hope. It doesn't wonder. It simply is. Let me show you what's happening beneath the surface. For years, you've been the one holding the energetic field of this connection. You've been the one sensing, feeling, knowing, keeping the flame alive even when he disappeared into silence. You've been the lighthouse, the anchor, the one who refused to let the connection die even when logic said it should. And that role was sacred. It was necessary. It awakened you. It cracked you open. It taught you about love in ways that transcended every limit you thought existed. But that phase is complete. The holding is done. The waiting is over, not because you decided to give up, but because your soul reached the completion point of that particular lesson. In 2026, the energetic structure of the twin flame journey operates on entirely new principles. The old dynamic, where one person held the vision while the other ran from it, has collapsed. That polarity served its purpose. It created the friction necessary for awakening. But awakening has occurred. Now what's required is embodiment. And embodiment doesn't happen in longing. It happens in living. You cannot embody union while waiting for someone else to make it possible. You can only embody union by becoming it within yourself first. And the moment you do, the moment you stop orienting your life around his potential return and start building a life so full, so rich, so aligned that his absence no longer creates a void, that's when divine timing activates. Here's what most people misunderstand about divine timing. They think it's external. They think the universe has a specific date circled on some cosmic calendar, and when that date arrives, everything will magically align. But divine timing is not about external dates. It's about internal readiness. And readiness is not the same as wanting. You've wanted this for years. Readiness is when you no longer need it to feel whole. Readiness is when union becomes a preference, not a necessity. Readiness is when you can genuinely say, I would love to experience this with him, and I am completely whole without him, and mean both statements with equal truth. This is where the divine feminine in 2026 stands. Not in the either or, not in the binary of staying open or moving on, but in the paradox of being completely available and completely whole simultaneously. And this paradox is what shifts everything. Because when you embody this frequency, you stop being the chaser. You stop being the one leaning forward. You stop being the one managing the connection energetically. And in that stopping, in that sacred withdrawal of your energy from the role you've been playing, something happens. The masculine feels it, not consciously at first, but energetically, undeniably, he feels the shift. Let's talk about what happens in him when you stop waiting. For so long, he's been held in your field. Your love, your patience, your unwavering belief in the connection, it created a safety net. Even when he ran, even when he ghosted, even when he chose someone else, he could feel you there, holding the space, keeping the door open, believing in what you shared. That energetic holding allowed him to avoid. It gave him the luxury of not choosing. Because why would he have to choose when you were choosing for both of you? But when you stop holding that space, when your energy returns fully to your own life, to your own body, to your own path, he loses that safety net. And the loss of it is what finally forces him to confront what he's been running from. This is not manipulation. This is not a strategy. You cannot fake this shift. You cannot perform it. It only happens when it's real. When you genuinely stop waiting because waiting no longer serves your soul. When you genuinely reclaim your energy because leaving it extended toward him feels like self-abandonment. When you genuinely choose yourself, not to get a reaction from him, but because choosing yourself is the only choice that aligns with your truth anymore. That's when he feels it. That's when the comfortable distance he's been maintaining becomes uncomfortable. That's when his avoidance starts costing him something. Deep inside, he knows. He's always known. The connection is real. What you shared was not ordinary. The love between you exists on a level that transcends logic, time, and every defense mechanism he's built. But knowing and being ready are not the same thing. He can know the truth and still not be capable of meeting it. He can feel the depth of the bond and still choose surface-level connections because they're safer. He can recognize you as his mirror and still run from what that mirror reflects. This is the masculine journey, and it's not your job to manage it. It's not your job to hold space for his process while abandoning your own. It's not your job to wait in suspended animation while he figures out if he's brave enough to choose love over fear. Your job, beloved, is to live fully, completely, without apology, without waiting for permission, without making your joy contingent on his participation. Your job is to build a life so beautiful, so aligned, so full of purpose and pleasure and presence that reunion becomes the cherry on top, not the entire cake. And here's the sacred paradox. The moment you do that, the moment you stop needing reunion to feel complete, reunion becomes possible. Not because you manipulated the energy, but because you finally matched the frequency where union actually exists. Union is not something that happens to you. It's something you become, and you cannot become it while waiting for someone else to join you. You can only become it by embodying it now, by treating yourself the way you want to be treated in union, by creating the life you want to live in union, by being the person you would be in union. And when you do that, when you live as if union has already occurred within you, the external reflection has no choice but to match. This is spiritual law. This is how energy works. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. So who takes the first step in 2026? You do, but not in the way you thought. The first step is not reaching out. It's reaching in. It's the moment you stop looking at him and start looking at yourself. It's the moment you stop asking when he'll be ready and start asking if you're ready. Ready to be loved the way you deserve. Ready to be met as an equal. Ready to stop settling for breadcrumbs and energetic connection and start requiring presence, consistency, and real-world action. Ready to walk away if those things don't show up, not as a threat, not as a test, but as a boundary, as self-respect, as love for yourself that finally matches the love you've been giving him. The first step is internal before it ever becomes external. It's the decision you make in the quiet of your own heart, the decision to stop waiting, to stop hoping, to stop managing his process, to stop translating his silence into something more palatable, to stop making excuses for his absence, to stop holding space for potential and start requiring reality. This decision doesn't look dramatic. It doesn't come with an announcement. It's a quiet knowing that settles into your bones, a shift in your energy that you feel before anyone else does. And that shift is the first step. Everything else follows from there. Have you felt it? That moment when you realized you weren't checking your phone as much, when his name popping up no longer sent your nervous system into overdrive. when you stopped analyzing every interaction for hidden meaning, when you stopped wondering what he was doing, who he was with, whether he was thinking about you. That's not you giving up. That's you coming home to yourself. And coming home to yourself is the most powerful thing you can do in this journey. Because the moment you're home in yourself, you stop being a seeker. You become a destination, and destinations don't chase. They simply exist, and what's meant to find them does. In 2026, divine timing is revealing who's ready to take the first step. And it's not about who loves more. It's not about who wants it more. It's about who's willing to stop performing the old dynamic and start living in the new frequency. The frequency of wholeness, of self-love, of boundaries, of presence, of reality over fantasy, of action over words, of consistency over intensity. This frequency doesn't beg, it doesn't convince, it doesn't wait endlessly, it simply is, and it requires the same in return. This is why so many divine feminines are feeling a strange sense of finality right now. Not the finality of ending, but the finality of completion. The completion of a cycle, the completion of a role, the completion of the version of themselves that could tolerate half-presence, mixed signals, and energetic connection without physical reality. That version of you is gone. She served her purpose. She got you here, but she cannot take you where you're going next. Where you're going next requires a version of you that knows her worth, that honors her truth, that refuses to abandon herself, that will not settle, that cannot be swayed by potential or promises or the memory of what once was. Where you're going next requires you to be the standard, not to set a standard for him to meet, but to be the standard yourself, to live it, to embody it, to become it so fully that anything less than a match feels misaligned. And when you become that, when you embody that frequency, you don't have to tell him what you need. Your energy communicates it. Your presence demands it, not through words, through being, through the way you move through the world, through the way you honor yourself, through the way you're no longer available for dynamics that diminish you. Let's talk about what happens next, because this is where it gets interesting. When you take that first step into yourself, into your wholeness, into your life, the masculine has to make a choice. A real choice, not a thought, not a feeling, not an intention. A choice that shows up in action. He either steps forward or he doesn't, and both outcomes serve you. If he steps forward, he's meeting you in the frequency of readiness. He's not coming back because you waited. He's coming back because he's finally ready to match what you've become. And that reunion, that coming together, is not a return to the old dynamic. It's the beginning of something entirely new. Something grounded, something real, something that exists in the physical world, not just in the energetic realm. But if he doesn't step forward, if he stays in silence, if he continues to choose avoidance over presence, that serves you too. Because it gives you clarity. It removes the ambiguity. It frees you from the liminal space of wondering and waiting. It allows you to move forward fully, completely, without looking back. And moving forward doesn't mean you stop loving him. It means you start loving yourself more. It means you stop putting your life on hold for a possibility. It means you open yourself to what can actually meet you now in reality without hesitation. This is the power of 2026. It's a year of revelation, of truth surfacing, of illusions dissolving, of what's real becoming undeniable and what's not real falling away. And you, beloved, are being prepared for this revelation, not by doing more, but by being more yourself, more aligned, more whole, more present, more boundaried, more clear. This preparation is not something you force, it's something you allow. You allow yourself to feel what you feel without making it mean something about the connection. You allow yourself to want what you want without apologizing for it. You allow yourself to need what you need without shrinking to accommodate his limitations. You allow yourself to be human, to be vulnerable, to be powerful, to be soft, to be fierce, to be all of it without editing yourself to make him comfortable. Because the truth is, if he cannot handle all of you, he's not your person. Not because he's bad or wrong, but because union requires two whole people, two people who have done the work, two people who can stand in their truth without needing the other to complete them. Two people who choose each other from wholeness, not from lack. And if he's not there yet, that's his journey, not yours. Your journey is to become so full, so complete, so aligned that you no longer need him to validate the connection. You know what you experienced. You know what you felt. You know the depth of the bond that was formed between you. And that knowing doesn't require his confirmation. It doesn't require his acknowledgement. It doesn't require his agreement or his understanding. It doesn't require his presence in your daily life. It doesn't require reunion to be true or valid or real. It's true because you lived it, because you felt it in every cell of your being, because it changed you at the deepest level of your soul, because it awakened something in you that can never go back to sleep. And that change, that transformation, that awakening is yours to keep regardless of what happens next. Regardless of whether he ever acknowledges what happened between you. Regardless of whether he ever reaches out or comes back or finally understands what you shared. That transformation belongs to you alone. This is the fundamental shift that so many divine feminines struggle to make. They keep looking to him to validate what they know to be true. They keep waiting for him to say the words, to acknowledge the connection, to confirm that yes, this was real, yes, this was significant, yes, this changed everything. But that external validation keeps you trapped in a cycle of waiting and hoping and seeking outside yourself for something you already possess within. The truth of your experience doesn't become more true because he confirms it, and it doesn't become less true because he denies it or runs from it or pretends it never happened. Your truth stands independent of his awareness or his readiness to face it. This is where the divine feminine reclaims her power, not by forcing anything, not by making anything happen, not by chasing or convincing or trying to wake him up, not by sending messages or reaching out or trying to remind him of what you shared, but by standing so firmly in her truth that the universe has no choice but to respond. By becoming so anchored in her own knowing that she no longer wavers based on his actions or his silence or his apparent disconnection from the journey. By embodying such unwavering certainty in her own experience that she becomes a frequency that cannot be ignored by the universe itself. And the universe responds through divine timing, through synchronicities that confirm you're on the right path, through doors opening that you didn't even know existed, through opportunities appearing that align perfectly with your soul's purpose, through connections forming with people who see you, value you, and meet you at your level, through life expanding in ways you couldn't have orchestrated with your logical mind, through magic and miracles and moments that take your breath away, because they're so perfectly aligned with what your soul has been calling in. And sometimes, yes, the universe responds through him, through his awakening when you've stopped trying to wake him, through his return when you've stopped waiting for it, through his readiness finally matching yours after you've released the need for it to happen, through him suddenly seeing what was always there, but he couldn't perceive until he'd done his own inner work. But here's what you need to understand at the deepest level. His return is not the goal. Your wholeness is the goal. His awakening is not the prize you're working toward. Your alignment is the prize. Reunion is not the destination you're traveling toward. Your becoming is the destination. Your evolution into the fullest expression of who you truly are is what this journey has always been about. And if reunion happens, it happens as a reflection of what you've already become within yourself. It happens as a byproduct of your own inner union. It happens because two people are finally ready to meet in the same frequency, in the same level of consciousness, in the same commitment to showing up fully. It happens because the work is done, because the healing is complete, because the lessons are learned and integrated, because the old dynamic is dead and buried, and something entirely new can be born from the ashes of what was. And if reunion doesn't happen, you don't collapse. You don't fall apart. You don't lose yourself in grief or despair or the feeling that everything was for nothing. Because you've already found yourself. You've already come home to the most important relationship you'll ever have, which is the one with yourself. You've already become whole, not through him, but through the journey he catalyzed. And from that wholeness, you continue. You continue building the life you're meant to live. You continue growing and evolving and expanding. You continue living fully and passionately and purposefully. You continue opening to love in all its forms. Maybe with him if the timing and frequency align. Maybe with someone else who's ready to meet you where you are. Maybe with yourself in a romance with life itself. But you continue regardless, because you're no longer waiting for your life to begin when he shows up. Your life has already begun, and it's beautiful, and it's full, and it's rich with meaning and purpose and joy. And it's yours, completely yours, not dependent on anyone else's participation. So who takes the first step in 2026? You do. Every single time you choose yourself over the fantasy of what could be with him. Every single time you honor your truth, even when it would be easier to pretend you're fine with less than you deserve. Every single time you set a boundary that protects your energy and your peace. Every single time you say no to what doesn't serve you, even if saying no means walking away from contact with him. Every single time you say yes to what does serve your highest good and your soul's evolution. Every single time you stop waiting for your life to begin and start living it fully right now. Every single time you stop hoping for things to change and start embodying the change you want to see. Every single time you stop seeking external validation and start being the source of your own approval and love. That's the first step. And it's not one step. It's 1,000 steps. It's 10,000 steps. It's a daily practice of choosing yourself. It's a moment-by-moment choice to stay in your power. It's a commitment to yourself that doesn't waver based on his behavior, his silence, his apparent disconnection, or even his sudden return. And here's the beautiful part that makes all of this worthwhile. The more you take that step, the more you embody that frequency of wholeness and self-love, the more you become that standard of what you'll accept and what you won't, the clearer everything becomes. You stop questioning whether you're on the right path. You stop doubting your experience or your intuition or your knowing. You stop wondering if you're doing it right or if you should be doing something different, because you feel it. You feel the alignment in your body and your energy field. You feel the peace that comes from living in integrity with yourself. You feel the power that comes from no longer abandoning yourself for anyone. You feel the freedom that comes from releasing attachment to outcomes. And that feeling is the confirmation you've been seeking, not from him, not from external signs or validation, from yourself, from your own soul that's been guiding you all along, from the divine that lives within you, from the universe that's been orchestrating everything perfectly, even when it didn't feel that way. Divine timing in 2026 is not about waiting for the right moment to arrive. It's about becoming the right person who's ready for what you've been calling in. The person who's ready for union, not just the fantasy of it, but the reality of it with all its demands for presence and authenticity. The person who can hold that frequency of unconditional love without losing themselves in it. The person who won't abandon themselves to maintain a connection that requires self-betrayal. The person who requires presence, not potential. The person who lives in reality, not fantasy or projection or hope for who someone might become. The person who knows their worth at such a deep level that they won't settle for less than they deserve. The person who understands that true love enhances your life rather than requiring you to diminish yourself. And when you become that person, divine timing activates. Not because you earned it through suffering, not because you finally did enough work or waited long enough, but because you matched it, because your frequency aligned with what you've been calling in. This is the year where everything you've been preparing for comes into focus, where the fog lifts and you can finally see clearly, where the confusion clears and the path forward becomes obvious, where the truth reveals itself without the distortion of fear or attachment or desperation. And the truth is simple. You are ready. You've been ready for longer than you realize. The question was never about your readiness. It was about your willingness. Your willingness to stop waiting for someone else to choose you before you choose yourself. Your willingness to take the first step even when you can't see the entire staircase. Your willingness to choose yourself even when it's scary, even when it means potentially losing the connection. Your willingness to trust that the universe has your back even when external circumstances suggest otherwise. Your willingness to believe that what's meant for you will not miss you, no matter how impossible it seems. Your willingness to live as if union has already occurred within you, as if you've already merged with your own divine essence and become whole. And when you live that way, when you embody that truth in every choice you make, you don't have to wonder who takes the first step, because you've already taken it. You've already moved into a new frequency. You've already shifted your entire energy field. You've already changed the entire trajectory of the journey, not just for yourself, but for the connection itself. Not by doing anything to him, not by trying to manipulate or control or force anything, but by doing everything for yourself, by coming home to yourself, by standing firm in your worth and your truth, by refusing to abandon yourself one more time for the sake of a connection that isn't meeting you where you are, by choosing you fully, completely, without reservation, without apology, without waiting for someone else to give you permission or approval or validation. So, beloved, let this be your reminder, your wake-up call, your permission slip. You are not just the doorway through which union must pass. You are the temple itself, the sacred space where the divine resides. You are not just holding space for his awakening or his return. You are the space itself, vast and complete and whole. You are not just waiting for union to happen someday in the future. You are union embodied right now in this moment. And the moment you realize that, the moment you embody that truth, the moment you live that reality, everything shifts. Not because you made it happen through force or manipulation, but because you allowed it. You allowed yourself to be whole instead of half waiting for someone else to complete you. You allowed yourself to be powerful instead of diminishing yourself to make someone else comfortable. You allowed yourself to be free instead of imprisoning yourself in waiting and hoping and seeking outside yourself. And freedom is what makes reunion possible. Not the freedom to be with him, the freedom to be yourself, fully, completely, without compromise, without contorting yourself into someone you think he wants or needs, without abandoning your truth or your needs or your desires. The freedom to show up as you are and know that what's meant for you will recognize you and meet you there. Ask yourself one final time and answer honestly without the stories you've been telling yourself. Am I still waiting, or have I taken the first step into my own becoming? Am I still hoping for him to change, to wake up, to finally be ready? Or have I changed the frequency I'm living in regardless of what he does? Am I still looking for divine timing to reveal itself externally through signs and synchronicities and his return? Or have I become the divine timing I've been waiting for? Because the moment you realize you are the answer you've been seeking, everything you've been waiting for begins to move. Not toward you from some external source, through you as the channel and the creator, as you because you are not separate from what you seek. You are it. You have always been it. And 2026 is the year you finally remember. Tell me in the comments, have you felt this shift when you stopped waiting and started becoming? What changed in your life when you took the first step back to yourself? Your story may be the medicine another soul needs to hear today. And if you're ready to continue this journey, if you're ready to receive these sacred transmissions, subscribe and let's walk this path together. Because you are not alone, you have never been alone, and the universe is celebrating every step you take toward yourself. Because that step, beloved, is the one that changes everything.